There is a very specific kind of person the world rarely talks about. From the outside, this person looks like they have everything together. They arrive at work on time, sometimes earlier than they need to. Their inbox is answered. Their desk is clean. Their calendar is color-coded. Their handwriting in the meeting notes is unreasonably neat. Their colleagues describe them with the same handful of words over and over again. Organized, reliable, efficient, sharp, dependable. They are the person other people go to when something has to get done. The person who somehow remembers everyone's deadline. The person who carries the quiet weight of the team without ever letting it show. From the outside, they look like someone who has figured life out. And then, at the end of the day, this same person walks into their own home, steps over a pile of laundry that has been sitting in the same spot for weeks, drops their keys somewhere they will not find tomorrow, glances at a sink full of dishes from days ago, and feels something heavy settle deep into their chest. They sit down on the couch fully intending to stand up again in 5 minutes. They do not stand up. The lights stay off. The mail stays unopened. The mess stays exactly where it is. And somewhere quietly inside them, a voice asks the same question it has been asking for years. How can I be so capable out there, and so completely lost in here? What we are about to explore is something most people carry in complete silence. And you are going to want to stay for the parts that come next. A kind of collapse that only happens after the world stops watching. A kind of disorder that lives in the space between who you are required to be in public and who you actually are when no one is looking. Roles that come with rules and consequences. A boss, a client, a meeting, a project. Every task has a beginning, a middle, and a visible end. There is feedback. There is recognition. There is, even on the worst days, a kind of order imposed from the outside that holds the nervous system in place. For someone whose internal system is already overwhelmed, this external scaffolding can feel like the only thing keeping them upright. The structure is not just helpful, it is load-bearing. Take the structure away, and the entire architecture of the day quietly buckles. Their organization at work is not a personality trait. It is a survival strategy dressed up in business casual. Somewhere along the way, often very young, they learned a quiet lesson. Being needed was safer than being seen. Being useful was safer than being known. Being competent was the closest thing to being loved. And so they built an external life so carefully ordered that nobody would ever guess what was happening inside. Home does not give deadlines. Home does not give applause. Home does not send a calendar invitation reminding you to fold the towels or finally answer that text from your sister. Home offers something far more difficult than any meeting ever did. Home offers silence. And in that silence, every small task suddenly requires a decision the person has to generate entirely on their own, from the inside, with no one watching and no one waiting. Should I do the dishes now or later? Where does this go? Do I keep this? Do I throw this away? What do I want for dinner? Why am I so tired? Should I be doing more? The questions stack up like the laundry on the chair. And the same brain that ran a meeting for 9 people 2 hours ago suddenly cannot decide whether to stand up or stay seated. So it stays seated. It always stays seated. This is what happens when a nervous system has been operating in emergency mode for 10 or 11 hours straight, and finally, cuts to stop. The body recognizes safety the only way it knows how. It collapses. The lights are on, but the operator has gone home for the night. It is the part of the mind that plans, initiates, sequences, prioritizes, and finishes tasks. It is what allows you to look at a chaotic kitchen and break it down into manageable steps instead of seeing it as one giant immovable wall. And here is the part that almost nobody talks about. Executive function is finite. It is not a personality. It is a battery. And if you spend your entire day pouring it into spreadsheets, presentations, emails, meetings, deadlines, decisions, and the invisible emotional labor of being the dependable one, there is nothing left when you walk through your own front door. Nothing. Not a sliver. Not a drop. The version of you that ran the day with such precision is not the version that walks into your apartment at 7 in the evening. That version stayed at the office. The one that came home is something quieter, smaller, and far more tired than anyone in your life has ever been allowed to see. It is not that they suddenly became incapable somewhere on the drive home. It is that capability ran out somewhere around 4:47 in the afternoon. and what is left is a human being running on fumes, trying to look like a person who still has something left to give. They do not tell their friends, who only ever see the carefully curated version. They do not invite anyone over, because the distance between the person they perform during the day and the home they actually live in feels too humiliating to expose. They live a quiet double life, polished on the outside, buried on the inside. And the longer this goes on, the heavier the silence becomes, until the silence itself starts to feel like another thing they cannot clean up. Now we have to talk about what shame actually does, because shame is the engine that keeps this entire pattern running, and almost no one names it correctly. Every time this person walks past the pile of mail, a small voice says you should have handled that by now. Every time they cancel on a friend who asked to come over, another layer of isolation forms. Every time they look at the bedroom that has not been properly cleaned in months, they feel the gap between who the world thinks they are and who they secretly suspect they are widening. And the cruelest detail is this: the shame does not motivate them to clean, it paralyzes them further. Shame is not fuel. Shame is a freeze response. The more ashamed they feel, the more frozen they become, and the more frozen they become, the more there is to be ashamed of. This is the loop. This is the trap. This is why telling someone in this state to just clean their house is like telling someone who is drowning to swim a little better. For many of these high-functioning, quietly collapsing adults, the disorder at home is not random, and it is not meaningless. It is a confession. It is the one place in their entire life where the mask slips. It is the only space where they are not performing for anyone. And underneath the embarrassment, there is something almost honest about it. The home becomes the single room in their life where they finally get to stop pretending, where they get to admit, even if only to themselves, that they are tired, that they have been tired for a very long time, that the version of them the world applauds has a real and rising cost, and the cost is being paid in silence, behind a closed door, in a space nobody else will ever see. The clutter is not who they are. The clutter is what is left over after they spent themselves trying to be who everyone else needed them to be. The body has been keeping score this whole time. Researchers studying the relationship between physical environment and stress have found that people living in cluttered spaces show measurably elevated stress hormones even when they are not consciously aware of the mess around them. So imagine what is happening to a person who spends every workday in a controlled, polished environment, and then returns home each night to a space that quietly tells their nervous system, you are not safe here. You are not on top of things, you are failing. They never get to rest. Not really. The office drains them, and the home does not restore them. It punishes them, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, they begin to feel that there is nowhere in their entire life where they can simply exist without being depleted. It shows up in the way they sit in their car for an extra 15 minutes before walking into their own apartment, because the moment they cross the threshold, the performance ends and the exhaustion arrives. It shows up in wearing the same outfit twice in 1 week, because doing laundry felt like climbing a mountain. It shows up in eating standing up over the sink, because cooking and cleaning afterward felt impossible. The world will never see this collapse. Only they will. And because the world cannot see it, they begin to doubt whether it is even real. Maybe I am just lazy. Maybe I am just bad at being an adult. Maybe everyone else is doing fine, and I am the only one who cannot keep it together. Maybe something is wrong with me. You are part of an enormous, mostly invisible group of people who learned, somewhere along the way, that being capable was the price of being loved, and you have been paying that price for so long that you have forgotten there was ever another option. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are not a disappointment hiding behind a tidy desk. You are a human being who has been carrying too much for too long with not enough help. And your home is simply the place where the truth finally gets to live out loud. Anxiety that looks like ambition from the outside. Trauma responses that taught them, very early, that the only way to be safe was to be useful. These are not excuses. These are the real reasons. And no productivity system in the world is going to fix what is essentially a nervous system that has been holding its breath since childhood, not as another thing to add to a life that is already drowning under the weight of things to do. What do you do as a human being who is tired in a way that does not show up on any medical chart? It is the residue of a life lived in survival mode behind a polite smile. Naming this is not weakness. Naming it is the first time in a long time you have stopped lying to yourself about the cost of how you have been living. You do not need a better system. You need more rest, more honesty, and a smaller ask of yourself than you have ever allowed in your entire life. The version of you that runs the meeting is not the version that needs to fold the laundry. The version that needs to fold the laundry needs something gentler, something quieter, something that does not feel like another performance review of your worth as a human being. Not one project, one corner, the knit stand, the kitchen counter where the mail lives, the chair that slowly became a closet. Spend 10 minutes there, not to be good, not to fix yourself, not to prove anything to anyone. Spend 10 minutes there as a quiet message to your own nervous system. A small message that says, I see you. I know you have been holding everything. You are allowed to put some of it down now. That is all. That is the whole task. 10 minutes of telling yourself the truth with your hands. And it is okay to want, finally, a small corner of your life that feels like it belongs to you. Not perfect, not curated, not impressive, just yours. A place where you are allowed to be a person instead of a function. Maybe the goal is a life where you no longer need to be excellent in public, just to be allowed to exist in private. Maybe the dishes can wait, that the kindness toward yourself cannot. And if you want to keep going, the video appearing on your screen right now was made for exactly the place you are standing in tonight. I will see you there.